Growing food is rarely just sunshines and unicorns. Plus, learning how to grow food with all the different talking heads out there, myself included, can just be flat out overwhelming. So how do we reliably grow food every year through all that chaos? By the end of this video, I'm going to share with you 3 mindset strategies that I've used to navigate the chaos of growing food on a farm that you can use in your garden when you're overwhelmed. I'm Zach Buckle. I own and operate this 1/3 of an acre vegetable farm in Cody, Wyoming, where we harvest fresh food 12 months a year to share with our community. So the first strategy that I go to when I'm feeling overwhelmed in general on the farm to keep moving forward and make progress is to just simply break everything down into bite-sized pieces, as small as humanly possible. One example of that is this field was pretty much covered in dandelions this year. And what we did to deal with that problem was break the field down into 5 sections. And then 1 section a week, we would actually hand weed with weed hooks and pull the dandelions up from the taproot so they don't regrow and don't drop seed. And in about a month, we got the problem dealt with, which is great. But when you have, we're looking at a couple thousand square feet here of dandelions. It can be pretty overwhelming when you look at it from that big of a perspective. But when you break it down into bite-sized pieces, it's manageable. And a lot of problems can be solved that way. And when you're learning how to grow food, it's the same thing. You can look at the internet for a solution and you get like 50 solutions and it's overwhelming. But if you break those solutions down into coming from people that are getting the results that you want to get, which for me, I'm usually looking for solutions from other market growers throughout the country because they're the guys that are actually getting the kind of results that I want to get. That narrows it down a little bit right there. And then what I'll do is I will find the 1 or 2 different methods that seem like they're going to work the best for me, and I'll try them for a good couple weeks to a month or maybe even a whole season depending on what I'm doing. And I'll try it for a while and stick with it, laser focused, and see if I like it. If I do, I'll do more of it in the future. If I don't, I'll move on. But narrowing down all that information into the stuff that's most likely going to benefit me and then trying it, seeing if it works, and doubling down if it does, that's what's turned my farm into a really resilient food factory that's custom to my context. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of different solutions to growing food or methods to grow food, but the only one that works is the one that works for you. The only solution that works is the solution that works for you. So there's no one method that's going to work for everybody. It's just not how it works. And the way that I've found to really push the envelope and actually grow more food in my really tough, cold climate is to just keep experimenting constantly. So I would say like 1 out of 10 crops that we plant throughout the year is just a flat out experiment. And if I lose the whole thing, I'm good with that. But if I don't, and it actually works, then I will do 2 or 3 more beds of that next year. That's how we figured out how to grow snap peas. And that actually worked really well for me last year. We got 60 pounds on a bed, and now we're going to do 3 beds this year. So those kinds of things are going to really help you push the envelope 5-10 years down the line and really find a custom solution to growing a lot of food in your context. So we did the same kind of thing with growing our starter plants this year also, because our potting soil, like I said, has a nutrient deficiency. So we started adding 3-2-3 fertilizer to it, and we mix it in the cement mixer, and we added some bacteria to it that is supposed to help balance the nutrition in there. And so far the results have been really great. I got that idea from another market grower down south who grows lettuce year round in Memphis, Tennessee. The guy's name is Ray Tyler, which is a huge accomplishment. If you've ever grown lettuce, growing lettuce year-round in that climate is very impressive. And that guy is one of the best growers in the world as far as I'm concerned. So I've got his book, and I've been trying his methods, and they're working great. It's really changing the whole farm. Because that nutrient deficiency, when you plant starter plants that are only like 75% grown because they just ran out of food in the plant cell, I found that it was a source of a lot of our problems last year with the production, and all of our starter plants are just exploding as soon as we put them in the ground now because they have more food, they're just healthier. These plants are healthier. It's those little tweaks over time that really turn your yard or garden into a food factory. And it doesn't really cost that much to do what I just explained, but you just have to be kind of disciplined and keep trying new things, and hopefully you get the results that you're looking for. But I really like to slowly integrate other techniques and just see what works and do it in a slow process. Slow progress is still progress, because when you try and move too fast, a lot of times you're just going to miss the results that you're looking for. And I think that's what causes a lot more of the stress and overwhelm for people when they just expect massive results in 6 months. Growing food's a marathon, not a sprint. So the more you're able to zoom out and look at a 5-10 year perspective, the less stressful it's going to be, and honestly, the better results you're going to get. We're only 5 years into growing here on this land, so it's still pretty new, but I'm using that strategy more and more, and the results just keep getting better every year as our soil improves and as our methods improve. Just zooming in on one little way to improve and trying to focus on that and blocking out all the other information is really what helps me. So one thing that I tell myself almost every single day is that there's only so much you can accomplish in one day, and just take one day at a time. That helps my stress level go down a lot throughout the whole season, because just a reminder, we grow in Wyoming. We have basically 4 months of growing season here if we're lucky. So that makes those 4 months pretty intense if you want to grow 2 or 3 crops a year. So I just surrender to the fact that there's a lot of things that I want to accomplish that just probably will not get accomplished, because at the end of the day, there's only 24 hours in a day. So there are going to be weeds that go to seed and drop seed, and I will have to deal with them later. But if I slow down and take one day at a time, I can usually zoom in on some really high priority things that need to happen and slowly make progress without stressing myself out about a whole big overwhelming problem. Like for those weeds that were covering this entire field, we pretty much dealt with them one day at a time. We would deal with this section one day, 3 or 4 hours of hand weeding, and it was pretty much clear. And then the next day we'd deal with this section. Or sometimes it would just be half of a section, because it takes a really long time to pull dandelions at that scale. That strategy really helps me not have a mental breakdown, and just surrendering to the fact that sometimes you're just not going to get everything done that you need to. And when you do that, and then you zoom out in the wintertime and look at what progress you've made, you can usually realize that you've made a lot more progress than you thought you were going to. And when you're growing food and you zoom out to like a 5-year perspective, that's where the real magic happens. You know, whether you're in a garden and you're in your backyard, or on a farm like this, when you zoom out like that and just take one day at a time for 5 years, you'll be amazed at the magic that happens. You know, 5 years ago, this was just an open field without deer fence, and we had basically half weeds and half direct seeded crops like beets and carrots and stuff that were terribly germinated, and about half of that was fed to the deer. So it was a disaster that first year. Second year was not a whole lot better, but we did have a deer fence. And slowly over the last 5 years, we have this. And it's just because we zoomed in as much as possible on problems that were going to have the most impact, and over time it becomes a manageable and beautiful space to grow food in. And that things like dealing with dandelions are a really big one, because those are things that you can pull and then they won't regrow. And if you pull them before they drop seed, then that area should become less full of weeds and easier to grow food in the future. But prioritizing the tasks and the problems that are going to give you the best results long term are great, and ultimately going to put the most food on your table are really where you want to focus your time on. So for example, we're in June now, and there's a couple beds that have already grown one crop this year that need to be replanted fairly soon. But I'm putting them on the back burner right now, because right now what the decision or the focus that's going to give us the most food this year is keeping this field free of weeds, because there's still a lot of annual weeds that are germinating right now. And so what we're doing is we're cultivating the entire field once a week, and I'm focusing our energy on that because I don't want to have a bunch of weeds going to seed in August. And that's going to cause us a lot more problems down the line than me planting those beds in the caterpillar tunnels that have already grown one crop right away, because we could still plant them in 2 weeks and they will still grow another 2 crops probably this year. So I'm not as worried about keeping those beds planted when they've already grown one crop this year. The main focus right now is to just keep this field as immaculate as possible for the next couple months to make sure these have a good chance to grow. And then that's going to put more food on the table for our customers and our business in the grand scheme of things. So those kinds of decisions, when you develop the skill of zooming in on what's going to give you the most impact in the next 3 to 12 months. And for us, impact is just food production. You know, the more food that we grow and harvest, the more our business thrives and our customers thrive. So that's the decision that we have to focus on, is harvesting. The more you can zoom in on those kinds of things, and just, you know, if you can focus on that one day at a time, the more easy it's going to seem to put food on the table in your garden. So my number one favorite way to reduce the stress and pressure and overwhelm of growing food on my farm is fall and winter gardening. And if you're a veteran of my channel, you've probably heard me say that before, because I've made a lot of videos about fall and winter gardening so far, and I'm going to make a lot more. But it is my absolute favorite way to reduce pressure on me, because in my climate, we have 4 months to grow. That's not a lot of time to grow enough food to make this business work. So what I like to do, and we also have a very small market. We have a very small customer base here. So if I could sell to that same customer 12 months a year, it is a lot easier to make my business work than selling to a really big amount of customers 3 or 4 months a year. And the same concept goes for you in your garden. If you spread out your harvests to 6 months a year, which I think is possible for most people, or at least you're eating from your garden 6 months a year, as opposed to 2 or 3 months a year, like you're eating from your garden August and September or something like that, it reduces the pressure on you a lot. So for example, if you want to grow a garden for canning, and you're planting 3 or 4 beds of tomatoes that are determinates or something like that, that are all going to mature at the same time, and you want to can in September, but 2 of those beds get blight and you don't have anything else planted, then you're only going to get 33% of the tomatoes that you need to survive the winter and, you know, have canned tomatoes. And tomatoes, there's just a lot of things that go wrong with them. So you got that one crop is basically 66% failure. But if you stagger your plantings and harvest food into October, November, December, even January, depending on your climate, and you just keep planting throughout the season and you don't try and have everything mature in September, it reduces the pressure on you a lot, because you also don't have to worry about like harvesting and preserving all that stuff all at once. If you spread that workload over as long of a period as you possibly can, it reduces the pressure on you a lot. And it also allows you to grow 2 crops in your space per year, which is a game changer. I promise you it's a game changer. Every crop that you see behind me, almost every single crop, we will be harvesting at some point this summer and replanting that same bed for a fall crop. Like this bok choy, we will harvest it all and we'll replant it to probably fall carrots or something in a couple weeks, not that long from now. These radishes in front of me are going to be harvested pretty much this week. We'll replant to probably arugula or something like that. And the spinach that we had right in front of the camera was actually an overwintered crop that we harvested in May of this year that we're going to replant to something else. That concept of an assembly line, every plot of land that you have to grow in is an assembly line that you just keep fueling with nutrition and organic material and nitrogen basically, and amend it every time. If you keep doing that, you can really produce a lot more food from your existing land and eat it and consume it in a way that's not stressful and overwhelming. It's just a game changer, and I would love to see a lot more people do it. To me, it is the elixir to food freedom. It is going to change the food system if everybody starts doing this, because you don't have, your window of opportunity becomes twice as big, no matter where you live. And honestly, if you're in the South, you could probably do this 3 or 4 times. There is market farms in Memphis, Tennessee that have 8 successions of crops in one bed per year. I mean, I don't even know how they do that. That's still, I can't even wrap my head around that yet. But there is so much more potential to produce food on small amounts of land if you continue to plant and succession crop than I think most people realize. I also have other videos on this channel where I talk a lot more about succession planting. The last video I made was all about succession planting, and it is the #1 strategy we use on our farm to make money, but it also is the easiest way for you to put a lot more food on your table. And I have planting schedules in that video that you can customize to your climate and start doing this at home. And I promise you, if you stick to the concept of fall gardening and succession cropping for a couple years, you will be amazed at the results that you're able to produce from your land. If you just stick with it for a couple years, write down your planting dates and your harvesting dates, and double down on what works, double down on or eliminate what doesn't work. And that's where you can really start making the magic happen. So I highly recommend you check that out. Fall gardening and succession cropping reduces a lot of the pressure and stress of growing food in any context. If you'd like to work with me directly to learn how to create your own personal backyard food forest that's going to feed you and your neighbors, I would love to connect with you on a call to learn more about your challenges and goals you want to achieve. If that's you, click the link in the description below and book a call for us to chat.